Hi everyone. I wanted to share a few words with you about Parashat Yitro, which we read this coming Shabbat. It's a very famous parsha. The revelation at Mount Sinai is described. The Jewish people, having escaped from Egypt, have now arrived at Mount Sinai, and Moses encourages them and prepares them to meet God at the mountain. There's a debate within Jewish tradition about exactly what happened at Mount Sinai, though. How much of the law did God reveal at Mount Sinai? And there's a wide spectrum from rabbinic literature and into modern literature about exactly what happened. What did God actually say? On the one hand, there are those who say they have a sort of very broad view of what was revealed. The entire law, all of the commandments, the entire Torah was somehow communicated from God to the people, either directly or through Moses, right at that time. The flip side of that is a more recent comment by Rabbi Mendel of Rimanov, who said revelation was only very, very minimal. In fact, he said the only thing that was revealed directly from God to the people was the first letter of the Ten Commandments. The first word is Anochi, which means that the first letter was Aleph. So what did people hear? Just the tiniest of sounds from God. And that there was like hardly any content of the revelation itself. Just God's presence was revealed, not the law itself. I think it's a very interesting debate, and I think that there's a lot more to say about that. But I'd like to just twist the question a little bit and not ask what is revealed, but what is the content of a Jewish life? Some might argue that the content is just recognizing God's presence in our world. But Jewish tradition as a whole doesn't take that view. Jewish tradition as a whole says that there is a content to Jewish life. The mitzvot themselves are what are supposed to be filling our days, filling our lives, filling our relationships with people. The Torah doesn't work only in broad rules and broad concepts. It can be very specific. It tells us about our relationships that are closest to us, our family, our friends, our immediate community. It tells us about our responsibilities with those who are far from us, people we haven't even met, not just our neighbor, but those who are further out in those circles of responsibility. The Torah will teach us about how to act in our home and when we are not at home, how to act in the workplace. And Jewish tradition, our ancestors, amplified these mitzvot in a variety of different ways, and it teaches us that the content of a Jewish life is full of details. How we're supposed to act in particular ways, in particular circumstances, in ways that are good for us, good for our community, and that make a difference in the world. Rabbi Mendel of Rimanov, his idea that it's just the Aleph that was heard is, I think, quite beautiful because it sends the message that what's really critical is recognizing that God is the God of the world. But I think that it's also important to remember that that's not enough to live a Jewish life, to live a full life. We need to remember to be in the details, to work on our behaviors, to work on our the way we respond to others who are in our lives. So remember that the Ten Commandments, which so many people see as sort of the peak of the revelatory experience, is really only the beginning. We have an entire Torah, 613 mitzvot in Jewish tradition, and there's even more beyond that. And so I hope that this Shabbat, as you read through Parashat Yitro and hear the Torah read, you'll think about this and think about ways that we can act to amplify our Jewish lives. Shabbat Shalom.